right, so we're on.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Rich Moran, and this is a show with no name, a show with no theme. And this is my first time interviewing somebody on the platform of a podcast. And my guest for this first show is Griddy.
Thanks for having me. You were
And
my first interview, and now I'm your first interview.
that's right. That's right. And so Griddy, aka Thomas.
That's right.
And I don't know that I ever knew your last name.
Christy.
Christy. All right, it's right there on the screen. That's right.
There you go.
Thomas, aka Griddy, who is the host of the podcast Griddy's World. Griddy's World.
That's my YouTube. Griddy Knows Best is the podcast.
All right. Oh, Griddy Knows Best.
Yeah, that's the podcast. Right. Griddy World is the YouTube, so you're not wrong. Just different platform.
I got them confused.
I have so much going on.
Maybe that'll be the name of the show.
Maybe.
The confused 50-year-old. So Griddy Knows Best. And since I am a pastor, that I by no means can publicly endorse Griddy Knows Best.
Oh, I wouldn't expect you to.
That's right. But if raw humor is in your spirit, then you might want to check out Griddy's World.
Yeah.
But there is a variety of guests that you do have, as you interviewed me.
That's right. I'm glad you did. I didn't know if you were going to do it.
I did. I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, I didn't put too much raw humor in your interview.
You didn't.
No, I try and tailor my interviews to who I'm talking to.
All right.
You know.
Well, that's why I had Griddy on, because in listening to him and listening to the young men that participate in the podcast, that I kind of got the podcast bug to maybe work to get something worth listening to. And I thought that he would be a good first guest to interview.
I'm honored you say that. I'm glad I gave you the bug, and a good bug, not Corona or any other bug. I gave you the creativity bug, so that's good.
That's right. That's right. And can you tell me a little bit how you got started in it?
In podcasting?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, podcasting was always an idea I had, or radio in general, when I grew up. As I grew up, I always liked listening to online radio shows, and obviously Howard Stern. I didn't get into Howard till maybe I was like in my early 20s. I was never like on the radio thing, but once people started uploading his stuff to YouTube, I started really getting into Howard Stern. I also had a lot of my favorite artists. They had underground radio stations of their own online. And then obviously podcasts came along, the podcast app and Spotify, and I just went to town on that. So I've always been consuming a lot of podcasts. And I always had the idea in my head as I was growing up, like, oh, maybe I'd have my own podcast. And I actually did do little bits of online radio in high school, but I never really stuck to it, which is a case for many things in my life. But when the pandemic happened, the wheels started turning more because I wasn't able to go to the studio. Well, I was able to go to the studio. I just didn't want to take the chance of going to the studio that everybody was at, using the same microphones and stuff.
So they were shared mics.
Yeah. Every studio does that. It's very commonplace to have one mic. So I didn't feel like doing that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I have a lot of ideas and I always want to be moving. I don't like to be inactive for too long. So the podcast, I was talking to some of my friends and, some of my older mentors, I would call them. And, they were like, now's the time to do it. You got to do it. And I had some money, thank God, that I had, coming around, and I had the stimulus check coming around. So I was able to buy the equipment that I felt necessary to do it. And we started.
what is your creative process when you're preparing an episode?
Depends on the episode. Like I am still experimenting. I always try to experiment. As an artist, you should always be experimenting. Like you should never, of course, getting into a groove, getting into a schedule is good, but you shouldn't stay there for too long. So as I said before, I like many different shows and most of them being underground shows. So I would say that as I'm still in the very early stages of the podcast, because episode 30 is still early in terms of anything. Episode 30 is like what, one season, you could say. So this is only the first season of Griddy Knows Best. So I try to experiment with many different episodes. And I think as my creative process with almost anything, when I go into music or when I go into, if I'm going, let's say I wanted to be a painter, whatever it would be, the first thing I do is listen or watch like tons of shit, tons, like just stuff. And my favorite thing to do is I play a game on myself of like an opposite game. So I would go listen to something I never thought I would listen to. And I would sit there and I would do that with music. And I found out that's when I found out I like blues and country music because I never really listened to it. So I just turned on some BB King one day and I found out I love BB King. So I did this with podcasting as well. And I would sit there and I would say, okay, well, I would say, okay, so this is one format. You know, some people do a solo podcast, only solo. Emma Chamberlain does solos. And then some people do kind of a Stern vibe where they have one guy and then they have sidekicks. And then people come in and then some people just do straight interviews. Like Talk is Jericho is basically an interview show. So I am very all over the place. I don't know what I want most of the time. So I said, I'm going to do it all. And I will stick to that. I like to do everything. It doesn't get boring for me. So right now I have 3 to 4 episodes in my head as I speak that I'm planning. So one would be an interview. And in that case, I would sit down with somebody like you. I would sit down and I would just think about, okay, what do you do? What's the most interesting thing somebody would want to know about you? What do I want to know about you? You know, because the thing is, if I'm interviewing somebody, sometimes there's things that maybe I want to know that not everybody cares about. So I try to juggle what is interesting to me and the audience at the same time. So I try to do that. And then sometimes if I'm going to do an episode where there's a bunch of people, I try and format that a different way. Or if it's a solo episode, it's a different format. So I just sit down and I experience life as much as I can because that's where my fuel is at. Experience different art forms, and then I just kind of formulate each specific episode and tailor it the way I see fit. Is that a good answer?
Yeah. No, it is. And
experimentation is key, and like mimicking people is great because you kind of see what works for you, and then your style kind of like comes out eventually. You start loosening up, you know, like so you may do a Stern style, and then you go, well, I don't like how he picks on people. I do that, but maybe some people don't, you know. So you go, I'm going to drop that, but I'm going to add this. So that's how, you know, that's how I try to do things.
Oh, I like your answer. You know that you go and you listen to things that you didn't necessarily think that you would like, and it seems like you really have a strong spirit of exploration. And you know, today is a special day.
That's right. We didn't know it till just now when I interrupted.
I didn't know it till just now that it is Griddy's birthday.
Thank you.
And I'll sing you a happy birthday.
No, please don't, because I already told them not to do it. I hate that. If you listen to the show, I've mentioned that many times.
Not even like happy birthday to you.
No.
You live in a zoo.
That's like a kind of a loungy Frank Sinatra style. I don't like that.
You look like a monkey.
You know,
and you smell like one too.
It's weird that I don't like stuff like I don't like being like the center of attention that much, which is weird. Like being a podcaster and like a rapper and all this and a YouTuber, like I actually don't like that. Like I don't like the big, like everybody surrounding me, like tons of adulation, like it weirds me out.
So it seems that podcasting gives you a safe place to express yourself.
I like a microphone. I've come to like I've performed on like big stages in front of people, and I do like that. But I always kind of just like me and a microphone for some reason. Me alone with a microphone has been what I like the most.
Well, I went to school for theater in my undergrad.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, was always extremely nervous on stage. I really wanted to act,
Right.
um, but it just would overcome with nervousness. But as time went on, especially when I started doing improv after I graduated,
That's tough.
uh, when we would perform improvisation at locations that had lights, that I always use the bright lights, that would wash out the audience because.
You just looked at the light.
And yeah, well, I would feel safe because I couldn't see the audience.
Right. Right. I like the performing aspect, but I don't know, like, not that I don't have stage fright or anything like that. It's just kind of, it's always been weird, like a bunch of people standing around looking at you. It's just always weird about that, and they're just like all the attention is on you. It's just kind of, I like the more like sitting around for weeks and months and crafting something and then putting it out and then getting the reception that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been more of a fan of that. Like creating a product and then people be like, oh, I like this about it, but the whole cheering thing, it's kind of a little weird, I guess.
So with your podcast, I'm sure that there are comments from your listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. We get, well, not, you don't get like comments on the platform itself. It's not like YouTube like that, but we always plug the Instagrams and Twitters at the end of the show. So like we've been building a fan base that way where they'll follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter. And we got people like Mikey and Gopind, and they hit me up for my birthday yesterday and sent me some interesting stuff. And, we're sending people stickers now. So we're growing that way. So I like that aspect of it. It's like kind of like you're building a club online.
Uh-huh.
That's
Okay.
cool.
And what about negative comments?
I don't experience them about the podcast that much. I usually get that somewhat on YouTube, but pretty much on YouTube. And I love that, actually. I find it to be fun because at the end of the day, it's just those people, like, who does shit like that? Like only people with a lot of time and a lot of insecurity or a lot of just weird stuff going on inside of them. So I just take it as what it is, and then I usually try and flip it. Like there's been times where people have hit me up with some real crazy stuff and I just commented back something funny and then I flipped them and then I made them kind of like, like a heckler or something, you can destroy them or maybe you could flip them if you want. I try not to destroy people. It doesn't really, you're just perpetuating that negative energy. You're just like putting more of it out there. But if you try and flip them, they're either going to run away or, they won't comment back, or they'll just come over to your side about things and they'll just say, oh, he's a good guy. It's just a joke, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I try. I try to just transmute that energy. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes people are just too vicious, whatever, and those you just leave alone.
Right. Well, I mean that's a really positive way of dealing with it.
You try.
Yeah. There was an episode that I listened to on your podcast called "No More Chicken."
Oh yeah, that's a famous one. That's an infamous one.
Where you, Justin, and I believe Dre was on it too.
Yeah, he was, but Dre's always like not involved in when that stuff happens usually.
Well, you just railed Mo,
right?
Who is a member of my church.
That's right. So you're gonna stick up for your boy right now. I know.
That's right. You did a great job of not flipping out.
Which he should have. He should have flipped out on the show because that would have made for a better show, but he didn't. He chose to do it after I hit the record button to stop it, and I was very upset about that.
So I mean, was that show planned? I mean, was that show like we're going to run Maurice through the coals because he ate chicken during another episode?
Well, it wasn't just because he ate chicken during an episode, because that's forgivable. It was a culmination of many things. And as we said on the New Year's show, was it the New Year's show? Yeah. That was actually a 4-hour show because we aired out a lot of other grievances that we didn't bring to light just because we didn't think they would be that interesting to the audience. They were too much, like too inside. So that was definitely planned. And it was funny because at the end of the show, you know, we stopped and I said, "You all right, Mo?" He's like, Actually, no. Here's the thing. I don't like how y'all plan that." And I was like, "Well, what do you think is supposed to happen? We have to plan the show." But it's not like if you like, it's not like it was embellished, if that's the right word. Like that's how we are. I tried.
So you went out with an idea and you let it grow organically.
Yeah, we just said like a lot of times I'm very bad at this. We're very bad at saving stuff for the show. A lot of times I'll be like, just stop, just shut up, because you're about to say something really good, and I want my general reaction. I want my like reaction to be legitimate. So don't stop what you're saying, and we have to wait like till a few days. I hate that now. That's the one thing I hate, and we always slip up because I always go, just say it. But that one, we had that for like a week because he wasn't coming on the show anymore. Like he wasn't coming on for the week, so he was shooting himself in the foot by not coming on the show because we would have aired it out the next week and it would have been over with. But then he stayed not coming on, and it made us angrier that he wasn't coming on. So then we were like, well, if you would have came on, we would have just had one thing to say to you, but now you just totally ruined it by not coming on the show. And actually, there might be a No More Chicken too because he's doing it again. So get ready for that one. You might want to come on and defend him. I don't know if you can.
Well, I mean, you know, if I'm welcome, I wouldn't mind bringing Nick's.
It won't be as bad as No More Chicken. He's been missing a couple shows. And the thing is it wrong? We want you on the show, so we're gonna be pissed at you that you're not coming on.
Yeah.
You know, so
well, you know, I mean, my buddy Mo's gone down to Georgia. You know, talk to his pastor no more.
That's I assume that because you've been asking me about him, so
that's right.
I figured he hasn't been communicating. Well, he hasn't been communicating that well with us anyway either. So
right.
Well, the way you sound, you might be on our side if you come on that show. So we might not want you on. There'll be 4-on-1.
Well, you know, I mean, I can play chaplain for everybody.
We don't need that. And
how do you actually feel about that? I'm going to share my screen here for a second.
Uh-oh.
And I have your logo up here.
Oh, thank you.
So the first one and with the turquoise blue, that's your normal.
Yeah, the teal.
Teal.
Yeah.
And then the next one was for Christmas.
Right.
And what was the next one for?
The rest of them are for Halloween. They were for different Halloween episodes. So that was for 4. I did 4 Halloween theme episodes this year and 1 Christmas.
And you love horror movies.
Love them.
Now, what is it about them that you love?
It's one of those things that is just innate. Like I can't explain anything. I just know that from infancy. Like we did an episode all about Michael Myers, as you can see the on that screen there. That's what that was from. And I remember one of my best memories is I had to be under the age of 10 for sure. And I was given Halloween 78, I think it came out. Halloween, the original Halloween for Christmas as a kid. Before that, I was watching horror movies on TV and I was reading Goosebumps. I've been reading Goosebumps since I was in like kindergarten. So my dad had noticed all that and he gave me Halloween for Christmas. That was like, I think one of the first horror movies I watched front to back. So I can't even remember I would say the first thing I ever watched or listened to that was horror related was Goosebumps. And ever since then, it was just like a rocket ship. Like I love them. I love scary stuff. I mean, Halloween, I'm wearing black and orange right now. This is like my Halloween getup. I just love it. It's the best. Ghost stories, everything.
And so with your spirit of exploration, you also like rom-coms.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What was what did I watch? I know you heard, did you hear about the wedding, what the heck was that called? The Wedding Date. I talked about that on the show. Did you hear that one?
I don't remember that.
That was the last rom-com I watched. And that was like a bunch of famous people. You probably know exactly who's in. I don't know, but yeah, I love rom-coms too. Not as much as horror movies.
Right, you told me about Last Christmas.
That was great. Classic. I watched Last Christmas, New Year's Eve, and the other one I just mentioned, The Wedding Date.
Well, I went to the I went toward the television thinking that I was gonna watch it.
Last Christmas?
Yeah, and I
You
didn't make
did. You should have. It was actually a funny movie.
it.
It's not. It's cheesy, but it's funny. I explained it all on the show. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I know. And the thing that bothered me was that someone was run over by a bus.
I mean, it has to be some kind of drama. It has to be some kind of heartbreak.
I mean, my concern is that getting run over by a bus is pretty cliche.
That's the fun of it. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. She got a heart transplant. What? And the guy's dead. I mean, they can't do They can't do everything here.
That's true.
They pulled a lot out of that bag. They pulled a lot of that bag of tricks for that one. They got me good.
And was it a city bus or?
It was a city bus, yeah, not a school bus.
Wasn't like a Greyhound or?
No. It was a city bus. I believe it was in Chicago.
I think that would be demoralizing to be like run over by a trailways.
I mean, you're dead. I mean, either way, he's gone.
He's gone.
Either way, do an episode. I mean, I guess I'll give you a sneak peek. I'm going to do an episode about escapism and resourcefulness, and the first half will be about escapism. And I talk about there's many different types. There's many different ways that we escape reality. Obviously, drugs and alcohol being the popular choice, but then you have more nuanced ones. I guess the word is where you go into video games and eating and gambling, and I fall into all those other categories. If it's not drinking or smoking, I don't do that. Everything else, I'm in, baby. Let's gamble. Let's eat. I love it.
So what kind of gambling do you do?
I like the blackjack.
Okay.
That's not like if we're doing like a list, it's lower on the list. I'd way rather eat. I'd way rather watch like movies for hours and stuff like that. So gambling's not high on the list. Like I haven't lost everything yet, so that's good. But from time to time, I'll go online and hit the blackjack table. I was thinking about it today since it's my birthday. I might.
Okay.
The night is very young, and there's more coffee to come.
So what I'm thinking is that you might hit 45 and your metabolism will tank, and you'll end up being one of those, guys with a skinny top, skinny legs, and the baby bump.
I hope not.
T-shirt.
I hope not. Because I do go through phases of eating a lot and then not eating a lot, so it kind of balances out.
Okay.
I will go through the phase where I don't want to eat, so it kind of we'll see what end of the spectrum I end up in at 45. I don't know which one I'll be on.
Okay.
Hopefully you're not right.
Well, I always find it fascinating, especially, now I'm 53 years old, and I run into people that I went to high school with,
right?
Who are really skinny,
right?
And then you or they're in great shape, and then you meet them, and they're humongous,
right? Yeah.
But then there's always that guy that didn't put on any weight anywhere but his stomach.
He just has the gut.
He just has the gut.
Well, if I come out with just the gut, I'd be happy, I guess. I wouldn't mind just the gut. If I had to say. I wouldn't be too mad about that. Whatever, it's a sign you're living good. It's a sign that you're living good. But I mean, in terms of escapism, like hopefully by 45 I'll be out of that. So I won't need to worry about that.
Okay.
I have another 20 another 20 years till then. So
yes.
So hopefully I get it together. If I don't get it together in 20 years, something's really messed up. I got a lot of time.
So the day we're speaking is January 6th, 2021.
Three Kings Day, my birthday.
Yep. The day that the Magi came and acknowledged Jesus as the King.
That's right. And me.
Amen.
The King. King of the earth.
He came to your house. They came to your house too?
Oh, yeah. Way back in the day.
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh?
Yeah. I spent all the frankincense on blackjack.
I can see the guys. Well, it's electronic blackjack, right? You're playing.
I had to pull a couple strings, get it done electronically, but I did it
I can picture a real blackjack table,
with some frankincense on it.
and then you put frankincense down on the table, and a bunch of guys going, "What the heck is that?"
That's how you know you hit bottom when you come with frankincense. That's how you know you're pulling out.
What is
That's the
that?
last.
What does that smell?
That's the last. That's you hit the last of it.
So you held out on the gold, though.
Yeah. I gotta keep that around. I said I'm moderate gambler. I don't lose everything.
All right.
I'll spend the frankincense, but not the gold.
All right.
Everything in moderation.
So going back to your show, there's a young man on your show named Justin.
Yes, right. My buddy, my brother.
And I find Justin just wildly entertaining on YouTube.
If you think he's wildly entertaining on YouTube, but you've seen some of the behind the scenes acts that we know. So he's more entertaining behind the scenes. I think we all are.
So how did you, Mo, and Dre and Justin meet?
Well, everybody is kind of a different story. I'm kind of like I kind of am the guy that brings everybody together usually. So I kind of collected everybody, and then we all the pandemic is the thing that really made everybody come together. But I met Dre first. I was about 9, 10, and we were at a camp. And we always remember this. I don't know if this is, you might have to bleep what I'm going to say, but I don't know if this is going to the congregation or not. But we first bonded over the 3 6 Mafia song "Slob on My Knob," and that was it. Kicked off right there. And we were big wrestling fans, so we used to beat the crap out of each other. And then Dre started coming to my school. So me and Dre been running around in the street, in school, at home. We've been everywhere with each other. He used to pass out CDs with me. And Mo's about the same. I met Mo through a mutual friend, and then me and Mo started becoming closer. He started coming over my house a lot. We started handing out CDs and going to concerts together. And me and Mo actually really bonded over like anxiety and depression and stuff, but mostly anxiety. He used to come over to my house because I would be afraid to be alone. Sometimes I'd be like, I thought I was dying all the time. And, it was serious stuff in my mind. I was like, you should come over because I don't want to be alone. Like I'm like terrified all the time. Like I have anxiety, whatever. So we bonded over that among many other things. And then that was around, I think I met Mo around like 15, but Justin, I met in the middle of that. I met Justin when I was about 13, and we were roommates together in this camp. Me and Dre went to a camp, a sleepaway camp, and the lady comes and she's like, hey, we're going to room you with this kid. We're all disability, by the way. The whole camp was disabled, but mostly just visual. And they're like, hey, we're going to room you with this kid, and his appearance may be shocking. So, we just want to warn you. And me and my parents are looking at each other like, what the hell are they about to put me in? Like, what's about to walk through that door? I'm terrified. I'm like, I don't know. Because I used to watch the old TLC used to be like a wild channel. I mean, it still is, but you used to watch TLC and it used to be like, shows like I Cry Blood or I Have No Head, but I'm Alive, and like all kind of like wild things that you would see, like the kid in India who just is like a torso, like just wild things that people like have crazy like ways, like, they show like conjoint twins. So I already had all that in my head, and I'm like, what am I about to see? And in walks Justin, and I was like, are you serious? Like this is what you bring to me? Like this is what's supposed to be shocking? Like this kid got progeria. Like, so we just I just remember seeing him, and now we just started doing our wild stuff immediately. Like we were wild kids. So me and Justin started kicking it. We were roommates. We used to throw M&Ms out of the college window at people and scream at people. And we used to, beat the crap out of each other. We used to throw Justin in garbage cans and stuff. Like we were like 13, just acting crazy. So, years go by. Everybody kind of knows each other. Mo knows Dre a little bit, or mostly because of school and stuff. Justin knows Dre more. Everybody's really aware of each other. And then when the pandemic happened, I was like, we're all getting on FaceTime one night, and it just kept going.
Okay. So now I know each of you has a sight impairment,
Right.
and so do you mind talking about that? Like how your sight is affected?
Yeah, I mean, I was born with a condition called achromatopsia. You're born with it. It's very rare. I don't know the statistics at the moment. My mom would be able to tell you, but it is a very rare condition where you are partially colorblind. I think some are fully colorblind. I'm partially colorblind. Um, you have nystagmus, which means your eyes move around. I think that's what it is. And I am nearsighted, so I can't see from far. And that's pretty much it. I went to public school for a long time, for maybe till fourth grade. I think I transferred in fifth grade to an all visually impaired and disabled school. It hasn't really affected my life to a dramatic extent like some other people I know. Like some other people I know have way more difficult of a life than me. I know some of my teachers were totally blind and they're flying planes, so they showed us that you could do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But me, as far as me, Dre, and Mo, a lot of us would go places and nobody would know that we were visually impaired. We would do everything else everybody was doing. And I think I have a huge ego when it comes to that. I would never like to be treated differently in public school. I get into fights because it was just, I didn't like being that kid that was like, oh, he's like, he has something wrong with him. He needs to be adjusted. So in some ways, Mo showed me that it's okay to relent a little bit and use things that are beneficial to you, because I would strain my eyes all the time, and I still do in the attempt to be normal. So I would sit farther away from further away from the board because I didn't want to like look like I couldn't see things. I didn't want to ask for help. So Mo kind of this year showed me like, no, it's all right. Like you don't have to be too like anal about this. Like your ego, like lower the ego a little bit, buddy. It's gonna help you. Nobody cares.
Right,
But
right.
when you come from an environment, especially New York, where you get picked on for stuff like that, it's rough. So it didn't really affect my life to a crazy extent. If anything, it probably is the best thing that ever happened, because I would have never met Justin. I would have never met Dre. I would have never done a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. You dealt with what you got and you live with it and you roll with it and you make the best of it.
Right.
I can't drive as of right now. So that's probably that's the only gripe I have, is that I can't drive as of right now. That might change.
When I first met Mo, and I mean, he exposed me to a whole different world that I'd never been exposed to before.
Right. In more ways than one, because people assume that we're like, oh, like, oh, we need help. Like, we're going to read Braille together and we're going to like, be like quiet kids. And we're like probably the wildest, like we're kind of an interesting bunch, because wherever we go, the rules change when we leave. Like every camp we would go to, there would be new rules after, because of all the stuff we would do. Like we surprise everybody because we don't act like we are. Justin used to run into, like, all of us used to run into walls and beat the crap out of each other and just like be just totally outlandish. And it was a shock to a lot of people that we would act like that, because we don't take our disability as like a weakness. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, and we're gonna keep going. Like some people's parents coddle them to an extent where they kind of stifle them. They're like, no, you can't. No, you can't. Like my mom let me wrestle. She let me play basketball. Like it's like kind of how you raise them at some point, like, so we kind of surprised a lot of people. So I'm sure you were shocked, because I'm assuming you thought it was going to be like, a bunch of kids that are just like, oh, hi, pastor, like very kind of mild mannered, quiet.
No, that wasn't my expectation, because I knew Mo beforehand.
Right.
And, I mean, Mo's a pretty upfront guy.
Very upfront.
And, I just remember, Mo and his ex and my pastor's daughter were at a YPD conference.
Okay.
I think it was in Jersey. And I was in Jersey, and I went to another location in New Jersey and went on a spiritual retreat.
Nice.
So when we got back together, a pastor's daughter brought him to the monastery that I was at, and we decided that we were going to go somewhere for lunch. And so we went to this place, and you know, there were these menus, and so I knew that Mo could read, but not realizing, what he could read and what he could not read.
Right.
That a couple of us ended up saying, "Well, just read the menu."
Uh-oh.
And he got really upset.
Yeah, you don't
and
say
said,
stuff like that.
"No, you read it." So when we got back out into the car, it was maybe a precursor, foreshadowing episode to No More Chicken.
Yeah.
Because Mo laid us out in the car.
Did he?
Yes.
Wow, he didn't tell me about this.
And the bottom line of this conversation was, just effing listen to me when I'm talking.
That's right.
And all I could say is, I'm sorry. Point well taken.
That's Mo. That's us. That's us. As I said, we don't like being called out, when it's in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, I could sympathize with that.
Yeah.
We've all been through that. Like, I've had people tell me, "Oh, you can't see that," and I'm just like, just total madness comes out, because to us, I guess a joke is different than you patronizing us. Like, when we feel patronized, that's when the will come out. Like, if you were to say a joke per se, and we know that it's in jest, we're all about that. But if somebody were to come at us and patronize, like, "Oh, you can't see that," or whatever, that's when we take it serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can imagine him doing that. Well, I will tell you, to anybody's defense, like I told you before, we don't appear to be, none of us really carry around any cards that we don't have a sign on our head. So I could imagine somebody seeing us going like, "Well, you obviously don't look disabled, so why don't you do what everybody else does?" So, I sympathize with you, but then we got to come back at you. We can't just let that slide.
That's right.
When you come at somebody in that way, it's in an unjoking way, we're going to be like, "Whoa, why are you coming at us like that?"
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not saying that's what you did, but in other cases that I've been in, where somebody's been like, "Oh, you can't see that." I'm like, "No, I can't see that." You got to that's when it comes out of control. Yeah. Because you're not going to come at us like that when it's trying to assume what we can and can't do. Probably worse is when you assume when we can't do, when you're like, "Oh no, you won't be able to do that." That's when we go and do it. Like, "Oh, you're visually impaired. No, you couldn't possibly do that." And we're like, "Okay, all right, we'll show you."
I mean, life is a learning curve.
That's right. As long as you're willing to learn. Some people aren't.
Yeah.
Some people stay where they're at and they just assume everything.
Right. And I think, some people are not concerned about being sensitive to differences and diversity. And we live in a world that's supercharged by, I think, oversensitivity.
Right. Which me being the age of people who are like that, I do not agree with that at all. Like, you kids, there's a line. There's definitely a line to being sensitive and just being oversensitive. And that's coming from somebody who's oversensitive. So if I'm not complaining about some stuff, people got to chill.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole joke thing, like, yeah, if it's a joke, like, all right, it's not like we grew up on South Park. That probably wouldn't even make air right now. It would probably be a YouTube show or something like that, which, but it wouldn't make air. But now everybody's so acclimated to South Park, they just let it go. But now when something new comes out in the same vein that nobody's seen before, like, "Oh, we got to cancel this. This is just, this is totally outrageous." And it's like, is it really? If you're not coming from a mean spirit, is it really that outrageous?
Right.
Like, some things are just jokes. Jokes are jokes. Like, I'm not going to live in that world where you can't make fun of something. And that's why we try, like, we're the worst. We as disabled people are the worst we try to be the worst of the worst to show everybody like,
Well, you guys are brutal to each other.
exactly. So we're like, if we could do this, y'all better shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all don't have any ground to stand on. If we're making fun of Justin and Justin's making fun of us, like, we don't want to hear anybody that has this, that's, you know, pretty much seemingly in a better position than us complain about something that a lot of times has nothing to do with them. A lot of times people are on Twitter commenting on something that's absolutely, like, getting mad about something that it shouldn't even cross their mind. Like, just leave it alone. It's ridiculous.
So
I just get charged up about that because I said, like, I grew up on all this kind of stuff that was a little that wasn't too PC. So my dad exposed me to everything, you know, all kinds of comedy. I grew up on Eddie Murphy, you know, the original Eddie Murphy stuff, not like, you know, his new movies. So, you know, we were just, jokes are jokes.
Yeah, and you know, I really think that our world has just become, you know, extremely sanitized.
That's a good word.
You know, in such a bizarre kind of way.
Right.
You know, like they got rid of Bugs Bunny because he was too violent.
Didn't they replace the musket or something in that? They replaced it. They were trying to replace Elmer Fudd's gun.
I don't even know. But then, you know, then I look at Kids Batman, and you know, he's blowing things up with missiles.
Yeah.
You know,
the wild time we're living in.
Well, I remember being on the bus, and it was a Wade Tours bus. That's a local tour company,
right?
And we were going down to see the Mets, and in May. And just as a sidelight, it was the worst baseball game I had ever seen in my life.
It was a Met game, right? So.
Well, the Mets, you know, it's always a crapshoot with the Mets. But it was the first time. It was the first time I was in Citi Field, and my father said, we're going to be sitting on the Pepsi porch, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like it's nice. Something special.
Yeah, that sounds like there's going to be
Pepsi porch is the farthest away you can be from home plate.
Oh man!
You can't see the baseball team looks like little leaguers,
right?
And it snowed.
Wow.
And we were walking through the rest of the stadium like we had seats closer.
Oh boy, that sucks. They brought us to a Met game one time, and you know, you bring in visually impaired people to a Met game. A decent seat is a horrible seat for us.
Okay.
We need premium seats, so we've been there.
All right. Well, anyway, so we're on this Wade Tours bus, and one of the guys that organized the trip put on Bad News Bears.
Oh.
I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I've seen like parts of it, so I kind of get the drift.
Well, you know, it starts, and I'm sitting next to my nephew. You know, we've been living in this, you know, ever more sanitized world.
Right.
You know, and the movie starts out with Walter Matthau, you know, waking up from a bender, you know, lighting a cigarette and taking another swig off the whiskey bottle.
How you got to do it?
I mean, he played it so hungover that you could actually like almost see the vapors coming out of his nostrils.
You could smell the booze.
And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I mean, as time, you know, it just hit me in the face, like how sanitized the things that we watch,
right,
have become.
And kind of that's more mainstream media, because if you go online, you find the stuff you're looking for. There's a lot of good people doing, and those are the people that inspire me to this day, that keep me in check. That go, okay, good. Like, not everybody's like this, and there's a lot of people putting out good stuff like this that we like, that are like, you know, like us, and that's who you kind of gravitate to. So we want that type of show where people like us come to listen to what people like us say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consume mainstream media because I know that there's an agenda there. I know that it's created to sell ads. I know that it's, you know, basically whitewashed, and it's so toned down. And that's not the type of style I'm into. Thank God for the internet, or we'd be like, you know, lost, because people would think this is how people act. People don't act like this. Mm-hmm. People act like us most of the time, you know, like, you know, people have sense of humors, and people say things that, you know, maybe you want to take back right after saying it, because, you know, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that, or whatever. Like, and and people have different opinions and perspectives, and it's not the way that like MTV now is portraying it, where it's like so like, oh, everything's so cute. Like it's not like that. And there's a lot of cool stuff out. There's a lot of people, like if you go on Bandcamp, you're gonna find Bandcamp and SoundCloud, you're gonna find music that you dig. It's just from somebody that's not on the radio, or somebody that MTV is not playing because it's not part of their agenda.
Right.
It's not part of the message you're trying to put out, but it's part of the message you like. If you go on YouTube, oh my God, it's endless of people that I resonate with, like tons of vloggers and critics and people that are gonna say stuff that either you rock with, or things that oppose what you like, and maybe open your mind a little bit. And that's the thing. If you're not out there looking at the opposite side of the spectrum, you're not gonna learn nothing. You might not agree with it, but there might be a little nugget in there that you might be like, oh, you know what? Like maybe I was a little off on that part of that. You know, maybe I didn't know that aspect of that. Like I just did the episode the last episode I did, we talked about this Facebook Apple war, and it's over data. Like it's over the transparency about what they're doing basically. Apple didn't like that Facebook kind of told everybody that they were taking a cut of the revenue that people were giving Facebook through Apple, and Facebook didn't like that Apple was blowing up their spot and telling everybody that they're getting tracked off the website, but still from Facebook. So the age we're living in is really getting really transparent, and they don't like that. But it's a good age to live in because you know what's going on.
Right.
You know what kind of deals you're making, because I kind of came up with this phrase in my mind, like we all make deals with the devil. You just don't know it sometimes. You just don't know what's going on. Like sometimes people are doing things that you like. You know, people are creating things, but maybe behind the scenes they're doing things to create that thing that aren't really maybe you won't resonate with that aspect of it. You know, like you like Facebook, but they're tracking you and they're doing all this stuff to sell your data to make massive amounts of money. And they're coming out talking about they're for the small business. But then you find that if you actually had a business page, they're charging you to not only make an ad, which is reasonable, but then they charge you to reach the people you acquired that liked your page from that ad. If I already made an ad to acquire this person, to acquire Richard Moran that likes my page, now you're going to charge me to not only find out the info about him that I should know because he liked my page. Now you're going to also charge me for him to hear my message. So if you're standing up for the small business, does that sound like you're doing that to me? It doesn't sound like that to me.
No.
So I forgot where exactly I was, but I just like the age we're living in, where everything's a little more transparent and you kind of know what's going on. So if you look around, the answers are out there.
Well, yeah, and you know, I mean, I grew up, you know, with a lot of people talking about George Orwell's 1984.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and you know, when people started taking a video of the police doing what they were doing,
Right.
I don't think that the powers that be ever realized that Big Brother was going to be turned back on them.
Right. I mean, what was the first one? Rodney King?
Yeah,
Was that the first like recorded police incident?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was I watched a documentary on that, the Watts riots documentary. If you are young enough to not know about that, oh boy, go watch that documentary about the Watts riots. I talk to kids my age and they're like, what's the Watts riots? I'm like, bro, it's like repeating itself every couple of years. Like, go watch it. It's so fascinating to see history repeat itself. Once you study history, you see it repeat itself.
So there's one more thing that I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
And you talk a lot about meditation.
Yeah, man.
And how did you get into it, and what kind of regimen are you in?
Actually, let me grab something for you real quick. I have something to show you. Meditation. I mean, I could probably talk for like 2 hours about this, so cut me off if I start doing that. If I hit the 1 hour and 30, cut me off. What meditation is, man, I've been doing it for probably 4 years now, maybe maybe even longer than that. Meditation is one of the blessings I did not ask for. It's one of the things that came to me. I don't want to seem too egotistical when I like the world doesn't revolve around me, but I do believe that a lot of things happen in my life that were just given to me that I didn't expect. Like my love for like my love for music kind of just came to me. I didn't look for that. I didn't look for podcasting. I didn't look for YouTube videos. Like I didn't set out to do a lot of things I do right now that are beneficial to me. So meditation was one of those things. I got out of this real bad spot in my life where I was going through really bad anxiety, as I stated before. I got started a new job. Everything was turning up at this point. Everything was going good. I started a new health regimen. I was on a, I was basically on a rubber band effect. I was doing a lot of bad stuff for a lot of years, like just not taking care of myself at all. And that made me rubber band the other way. So I started taking care of myself like really good, like just juicing and everything. So in the process of exploring that world, the health world, the whole new world, I started kind of learning how to better myself in every way, and spirituality came out of nowhere. I started with Tony Robbins and stuff. I started with all that stuff that's kind of rah, whatever. But then I hit spirituality, which is a lot deeper than that. It's a lot of stuff in there that maybe, you don't want to look at. And I've always been kind of an explorer, like you said. So I wanted to know a lot of truths about myself and about the world. And meditation came up in that process. I didn't want to do it. I was like, what the hell is that? This is like some new age crap. Like, I don't know what sitting around is going to do for me. I don't know what sitting in silence is. I had no clue. But then something in me, as always, when it comes to anything like that, kept bugging me. I get a bug. Like, it's just like, you have to do it. And I don't know why I have to do it, but I have to do it. Like, I don't see any reason why this is necessary. I don't know why I need to do this. So I sat down as recommended for 5 minutes. During those 5 minutes, I was like, what is this? This is stupid. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that, whatever. And for some reason, I just kept doing it. I can't even imagine. I can't even tell you what prompted me to keep going. And I same way I do with anything, I tried different types of meditation. I tried the sitting, and I think it's called do nothing, where you sit with your eyes open and you do nothing. I tried kind of just sitting there and being mindful with my eyes closed, which is how I started. So I do that. And then everything kind of starts clicking why meditation is good. I started reading books about it, but the meditation is like the number one example of, you can't read about it, you got to do it. Like, that's one thing you can read about meditate. You can read about, taking care of a kid, but it's a whole different thing when you start taking care of a kid. You have your own experiences with that kid. And that's what meditation is like. You can read about sitting in silence, but you don't know what benefits there are, and what kind of like hills you're going to come across, and what kind of adversity you're going to come across. Because sitting in silence is way harder than you think, especially when you're not just supposed to sit there. You're supposed to catch the train of thought you're on and break it and be in the moment, and catch the train of thought you're on and break it and be in the moment. The human mind is like not designed to do that. You just, especially me, I come from, neurotic and anxiety. So I'm just like, bing, bing, bing. I want to do this. I want to do that. And doing that is one of the hardest things I ever had to do. So I was doing that for years, and I started enjoying it because I found the spot. I found this spot when everything stopped. Time, like nothing mattered. Just where I was at, just that moment I was at in silence mattered. And that was when I really started liking it. It took a while to get to that, to get to that spot of, oh, this is what's up. Like, I like this. I like being here. And not, like, I'm not thinking about yesterday. I'm not thinking about that girl. I'm not thinking about food. I'm not thinking about nothing. And then once you hit that, like anything else, when you talk about growth or mastery, you go down and you go up. And I started doing 15, 20, 30. And then once I hit 30, I was a plateau, and I stopped for a couple months, and then I went back up. So that went on for a couple years. And then this year last year, 2020 was my best year for meditation. So I was on a real down. And then once the pandemic hit, I said, I got to go back, because I know the benefits now. I know it's making me better, because now I'm more aware of my surroundings. I'm more aware of what's going on in my skull. So I'm more able to stop myself when I'm feeling anxious. I know what an anxious thought is now. I know when I'm creating the future in my head and it's not real. I know when I'm doing that. And I'm like, oh, I bet you this person's thinking that way. No, they're not. Like, just shut up and go about your business. That's not what's happening. You're creating this whole like this inner monologue is ruining your life, and you need to silence it or switch it. That's how I looked at it, because you become more aware of your inner monologue and your thoughts and your whatever desires, all that shit. So this year was my best year because I ended the year by switching up the meditation. I started using these mala beads here. I needed to switch it up.
And what are they called again?
These are called mala beads.
Mala, M-A-L-A?
Yeah. So you do like a japa meditation with this. So I knew the one thing, like anything especially with creativity, when you hit that wall, you switch it up. I realized I didn't explore every part of meditation. So I said, all right, what do I want to do now? I stumbled upon that. So this is a bunch of beads. It's like 108, and you hold it like this. You don't use what's this finger? You hold it between your middle finger. You hold it on your middle finger and your thumb, and you go from one bead to the other bead to the other bead to the other bead until you get back to this bead. So you sit there, and then this was the first year that I sat and I did a session, and I did an hour-long session. That was my goal. So I did 2 hour-long sessions. After that, I felt like insane anxiety. Like I've never felt that anxiety before. And to me, that was like, when you go deeper into meditation, they tell you like, it's going to bring stuff up from your subconscious mind. And that's something that I didn't know in the beginning. And I'm glad I didn't, because it might have deterred me from doing it. Mm-hmm. It's not that this is the part of it where I say it's not the good part. That's not the fun part. When stuff, this is all like ethereal shit. So you might not believe in it. I don't know. But I believed that once I got out of that hour-long meditation, all of a sudden I had the worst panic attack I ever had. Like that seemed a little fishy to me in terms of like something's going on. Like you're purging something from that. You're
really digging down to the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, you opened up something that should have been that you need to let out, and that's what they say sometimes in spirituality. You need to dig in there, and you get it from. And the thing about it is, like, if you need to do that, like Ram Dass says, there's multiple ways to do that. Meditation, I may stop meditation and go move to a whole nother thing. Like there's a type of yoga where you just serve people, and they see that as a way to gain enlightenment. And I don't do this to gain enlightenment. I never did it to gain enlightenment. I don't know if that is a thing. I don't know if I'm gonna ever get it. I don't know what that is. I'm not looking for it. I just did it to make my brain better, because I knew it cleared the fog and it made me a better person. And I liked, it made me more focused and more aware. But there's that other side of the coin that you got to know about. There's other things, but so, meditation is one of the best things I ever did. It may not be always fun. It's not always fun at all. Sitting there for an hour was like, what the fuck? Like, this is awful. But then sometimes you hit that spot and you're like, whoa, this is like this is incredible. There's nothing going on in my skull right now. Mm-hmm. This is awesome. If you never experienced that, you're going to be like, whoa. So, I mean, I love it. It's great. And I have an on and off relationship with it. Like after I had that panic attack, I think I did one more hour long and I took a long break. I've been taking a long break. I feel like I just need to let whatever come out. And I think I will know when it's time to go back.
Okay.
If that answered your question? Did I hit an hour and a half?
Well, you didn't hit an hour and a half, but no, I mean, that's really fascinating. I mean, there's different spiritual disciplines that, I've tried from a Christian perspective. And I don't know that, my devotion to them has wavered a bit. That's not an easy thing to admit as a pastor. However,
to just cut you off real quick, because that's one of my favorite quotes. You brought up one of my favorite quotes that you said. Not that you said that. You said it, made me think of it. Ram Dass, one of the people, like a big spiritual guru guy, if you ever know about him, he talks about the path, and I get, you can take that in many ways. The path could be, but in his terms, it's a spiritual path. And they talk about falling off the path. and then going back on the path. And that's what I said about me not taking months off from meditation, then going back and having the best year ever. It's like, that's where it's at, is going back on it. The fun, that's where the growth is. It's like, that's where, nobody gives a shit if you stop. We give a shit if you go back on. Everybody's gonna stop. Everybody takes breaks. You're supposed to. The real meat of it is, am I gonna go back on? You shouldn't feel bad for not continuing. You shouldn't feel bad for taking a break. You should, because something's not for everybody. So, because like I said, meditation just happened. I didn't ask for that. But if you asked me to go do yoga tomorrow, I'm like, get the fuck, I'm not doing no yoga. I don't want to do that. If you ask me to go to India and look at the burning bodies, like some people do that as a spiritual practice. They go to India and they take this trip. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So you find your way, and if it's meant for you, you're gonna get back on.
Right.
It's gonna pull you back in.
I think I learned, how precious spirituality is to each individual person.
Right.
And that now working as a chaplain, that all sickness and all illness is not always physical.
Right.
And that people with some very acute physical ailments that are laid up in the hospital may have not been there if they had more spiritual wellness.
Right.
And that's not to judge people, because I think we live in a society that if you were just to take a quick glance at our society, more monetizes spirituality than it actually teaches productive, good spiritual practices.
Well, to add to your point, that was another reason I enjoyed meditation. It's free. People will try and monetize meditation, but the guy that I learned from was basically, the first video I saw was the no bullshit guide to meditation. He's not trying to sell you a mat. He's not trying. These beads I got years later, and I even wavered on whether I was gonna get them. I was like, "Are you really gonna buy something?" Like, this is all about, because I used to be so wasteful with everything. So I was like, I'm not gonna take on a hobby that's gonna require any money. I need to do this on my own. So, but it is like, you see people, they have the shirts and the mats and the beads and this, and they all namaste, but like, they don't know shit. It's all for $1, and you can buy the beads in the mat. But I'm saying, like, you could tell when it's phony. You could tell that it's people don't care how, like, society sometimes doesn't care how to get the dollar. They just care to get the dollar. Like, right. That's what TV is about. Like, if people, like, they give you what you want at the end of the day. So we complain about TV being trashy, but this is the viewers don't lie. The viewership doesn't lie. This is what we want. You want that crappy TV. So don't, maybe not all of us, but if that wasn't getting ratings and selling ads, it wouldn't be on TV for a while.
Right.
There wouldn't be such a saturation of it, and sometimes we don't know that it's bad for us. So again, in a no judgment way, because like I said, I was the worst. Everything you could think of besides drugs, I loved it to a real bad extent. I didn't have any mindfulness. I just went from one bad thing to the other bad thing. And that's where I was going to talk about escapism on the show. It's like, I was doing that basically because I didn't want to look at reality, I guess. And I didn't know it at the time. I just went from TV to sugary drinks, to this, to that, to this, to that, always on the move. And my brain is always occupied with fun and pleasure and this and that. But there's a whole other side that you don't know about. You just don't know, So yeah, they take advantage of the kind of, what do you call it? Like the primal nature in everybody. Mm-hmm. So, that's what gets monetized. They're not stupid.
No.
That's what our primal nature wants. It wants.
Even the Facebook platform is designed to, cultivate our lizard brain.
Right. And that's they have that whole new documentary that came out, the social media network, whatever, that everybody's watching, and that's great that people are more aware of it now. More people that didn't know about it a year ago are like, whoa, you're taking advantage of me in a whole different way than I didn't even expect. Now that's why the mindfulness thing was big for me, because I realized now I'm able to take a step back and go, whoa, 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 whoa. I know exactly what you're trying to do, and I know it's going to work. So let me back up.
I like that, and I know it's going to work.
So I'm going to back up. Like you have to have that self-control. I don't have it all the time. I wish, but it's a process. I'd rather be on and off the path than not on at all.
Well, Facebook has really been screwing up with me.
You don't like it either?
Well, the algorithm has been giving me so much stuff I don't want to see that, if they keep that algorithm, I'll probably be swearing off Facebook in another couple months.
Which is backwards, because they should be giving you stuff you want to see. Like YouTube is good at that. You watch one video about cooking, that's it. Your whole feed is about cooking.
Right.
They really are the ones that give you kind of what you want. But I didn't know Facebook was giving you stuff you didn't even want to see.
Well, speaking about cooking, I would just like you to explain to me.
I know where this is. I knew you were gonna say this. Should have opened my mouth.
How
I should have used another.
In the world did you think that you could make eggnog with oat milk and coconut cream?
Because I didn't think. I said I was practicing mindfulness, not thoughtfulness. I'm in the moment. I didn't say I was thinking about what I was doing, really.
And if anyone's interested in seeing that, you can see that on Griddy's World on YouTube.
Yeah, I tried to make eggnog with oat milk and coconut cream. I have a can over here too. This is one of the leftovers. It was really a good idea in my head. And that's what I like. If anybody watches my videos and go, there's no way that you consistently mess up every time. No, it's true. I think
that is the beauty of your vlog.
Is that it's so real. Like, I just don't plan on messing up. I think everything I'm about to do is fantastic. And it's not. It usually is not. Like, I don't plan on messing up. And you know what? Now I'm like, is there going to be a day where I don't mess up? Like, is that going to be good? Am I going to want that? Am I going to want things to come out good? I don't know. We'll see. Keep watching.
Well, I think for the entertainment value that you just keep messing up.
And I don't plan on messing up. So I mean, just keep doing what I'm doing, I guess.
I did improv comedy for a while, and it's not solving the problem that people want to see. It's suffering through the problem that people want to see.
Well, they'll see a lot of that on my vlogs. Keurig is your favorite. The Keurig is. I don't know what you didn't bring up the Keurig one.
I didn't bring up the Keurig one. They'll leave that alone.
That was the worst one. Go watch that one.
That was so much fun, though.
Watching me struggle with the Keurig machine.
The Keurig, yeah.
So bad. And my sister was like, right before she left, she said, "Do you want me to show you how to use it?" I said, "Nah, it's easy. It's fine. I got it." Totally did not have it. Totally wrong.
Well, I think the stuff that you and the crew do are brilliant.
Brilliant is authentic. Let's use that word.
Well, there's brilliance in authenticity. How about that?
Brilliance or stupidity. The world may never know.
Well, Griddy, I thank you for you coming on and doing this.
Of course. How could I not?
And so, I mean, my plan is, to talk to a wide range of people.
Right.
I'll be talking to a lot of pastors. And so why don't we close with a little prayer?
Are you doing it or I'm doing it?
I'm doing it.
Oh, thank God, because I was not ready for that.
I won't put you on the spotlight.
I was not ready for that. I would have just said amen.
All right. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you for this time with Thomas And that God, I ask that you continue to bless everything that he does. That God, I thank you that Thomas has shared his meditation experience, and that we have a lot to learn from listening to what he had to say. That we can be very complex creatures, and sometimes we can be very simple. But there are many things that we can do to help ourselves, to learn more about ourselves, so that we might be well enough to help somebody else. And Lord, that is an important thing for us to acknowledge. That if we bring one person as we go along, that our living will not be in vain. So God, I ask blessings for Thomas. I ask blessings for the whole crew, Dre, Justin, and Mo. And Lord, that I ask a blessing on Thomas's family, and that any concerns that he have, Lord, I ask that you listen, you hear them, and that God, that you come to his aid. So Lord, I thank you for this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I got a lot of concerns, so get ready.